I can almost never think of a reason a student should not use that prompt because it's just so perfect. It's just like, tell us anything you want about yourself.
Hello, and welcome to the Admittedly podcast. My name is Thomas Caleel. I'm the former director of MBA admissions and financial aid for my alma mater, the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. In this podcast, I don't promise easy answers or quick fixes, but I will use my decades of experience to help you achieve your education goals. Now let's get started.
Hello, and welcome to the Admittedly podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Caleel, and today we're going to talk about something very important, the additional information essay in the Common Application. For several years, many years actually, the word limit on this essay was 650 words. But this year, for the coming application cycle starting in 2025, the word limit is now 300 words. Let's talk about why this change happened, what it means for you, and how to use the additional information essay effectively and strategically. Now, for many years, the Common App had set the word limit of the additional information essay at 650 words. And what happened to that, right? They asked specifically in the additional information essay, like, is there additional information? Are there things that we should know about you that you haven't been able to include anywhere else in the application? And the intent behind this was, what if you faced a significant challenge? What if you, for example, were diagnosed with ADHD your junior year and only got extra time then? What if you had a family issue that you didn't really want to talk about in your personal statement, but that was compelling and impactful on your life? What is it? Maybe a circumstance or situation in your upbringing or a change or something, anything that wasn't able to be captured elsewhere in the application that you felt that the admissions officer should know about. And it served a very important role because, not all of us, not everybody has an easy linear life. Many things happen to families, to students that need to be disclosed. It doesn't necessarily need to be traumatic. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just a growth or a development issue, and you want to address that. Right? I didn't get good grades my freshman year because I was unfocused and I wasn't really keyed in on the value of my education. But you know what? I matured. I grew up. Here are some examples of how that happened and so forth. The important thing here, however, is not to use the additional information essay as simply another essay. Now, I have had very robust disagreements with mostly counselors and people in the comments on our socials at Admittedly Co. on Instagram and on TikTok, where people will argue with me. No, it's where you put all the things, right? I wrote 2 essays. I dumped a bunch of extra activities in there. And I was like, yeah, okay, this is a difference between somebody who's been on the decision side of the desk and somebody who's been on the applicant side of the desk only. Because from the applicant perspective, it makes sense, right? Well, you've got the room, you might as well use it and put all the things in there. But from an admissions officer, former director of admissions point of view, judgment matters. And if you are ignoring the prompt, which is, use this space only for meaningful things that you haven't been able to capture elsewhere, and you just kind of disregard that and start vomiting more information in there, it tells me that you're not very organized. You're not very strategic. You haven't thought through your application. You're simply trying to jam as much data through the system as possible and hope that maybe something sticks. But those kinds of things can backfire. Now, in my other podcasts and on social media, you've definitely probably heard me talk about you can be admitted because of an essay or despite an essay. And what's happening with a lot of these additional information essay data dumps is that the rest of the application is really good. And the school probably looks and says, okay, listen, that's poor judgment. Is it bad enough to keep them out? No, because we like these other things about them. And so we'll forgive them this transgression. But then these students go out and their counselors go out and they're like, oh, that worked. So it must be the thing to do. And then they have other people do it. And the reality is that that is not the way. Okay. What you want to do is think about, do I even need the additional information section? I have worked with so many students over the years who've gotten admitted to their top choice schools, the most competitive schools on the planet, and not even thought about using the additional information essay. And I've had other students who, equally successful, have used the additional information essay strongly to their advantage because they needed to go in and break down something and parse it out and really convey to the admissions officers, hey, this matters, this is important, let me help put this in context for you. So a lot of this here is judgment. Don't be creative in the additional information essay. Don't go in and just data dump. We also saw this in there's been a COVID essay the last few years, how's COVID impacted you? And we saw a lot of students just kind of write an essay that is kind of sort of related to COVID, but clearly just an excuse for them to jam another activity or talk about something else. I don't in any way want to demean or dismiss people who had significant experiences during lockdown, during COVID. It impacted many, many families. I look at my own children and I can, definitely see echoes of the lockdown, echoes of, the impact of school on them, the school closures, the school distance learning, and all of those things. But the way I look at it is the following. If your situation is common to other people around you, then it is probably not worth writing about, okay? But if you underwent a significant change or growth or emotional traumatic issue during COVID that impacted you, it impacted your family, it impacted a trajectory that you were on, absolutely you want to talk about that, right? So the same thing goes for the additional information essay. I want you to step back and I want you to think about, okay, how am I framing this? How does this contribute to the overall strategy of my application and what I am talking about in the much bigger picture of who I am and how I'm conveying myself to the school? Now, one small exception here in the University of California application, in the personal information questions, the PIQs, there is an option, there is a prompt, I believe it's prompt number 8, that says, hey, if there's anything else that we haven't asked about that you think is important to include it here. That is not an additional information question per se, because you're only allowed 4 prompts. And so if you want to pick that prompt, that's great because that allows you to speak to anything you want. You're not having to kind of manipulate and shape your story to a particular question. You're allowed to talk about anything. So if you have an interest, a hobby, an experience that has shaped you, transformed you, tripped you up, whatever it is, that's the place to put it. And so use that prompt effectively if you can. In fact, I can almost never think of a reason a student should not use that prompt because it's just so perfect. It's just like, tell us anything you want about yourself. And so, yes, you can certainly use the other PIQs to shape that experience into an answer. This just gives you free, kind of carte blanche ability to talk about anything in your life that matters. Now, going back to the Common App application and the additional information essay, you could use that, for example, to drop a very, very brief research abstract. If you've done real research with a professor on a team, not pay to play, something you're proud of, you played a role in, you can drop a very brief abstract in there if there's no place to drop it in the supplement. But certainly, don't try and over manufacture that. Don't try and cram a resume in there. Don't try and cram additional activities in there. You might drop a few extra awards if you've received more than 5 awards, or you want to elaborate on an award that's particularly meaningful to you. That could be a space to do it. Definitely, we also had we saw a lot of times students trying to drop a resume in the additional information essay. Most schools now in their supplements have an opportunity for you to upload a resume. And so a resume is a great place for you to elaborate on things, right? So instead of just having this activity list, you can go in during your resume and build things out a little bit, add a little bit of color, add a little bit of detail, talk about awards that you've won in context of those awards. Now, please do not have a resume longer than 2 pages. if you've done a lot of research or you've won a lot of awards, you could do 2 pages of information and then 1 page, third page, basically detailing and outlining a list of awards and accomplishments. If you're highly, highly accomplished in something, go ahead. But, I keep going back to like business schools, top business schools in the country. You can have a 1-page resume. That's it. Wharton, Harvard, Stanford, top business programs, MIT, Chicago, you get 1 page. And these are 30-something-year-old professionals with actual careers. So as a high school student, the impetus sometimes is to say, okay, I'm just going to put all this stuff in here, instead of saying thoughtfully, okay, how do I curate what I've done? How do I put it in context? How do I not over elaborate here? Because yes, some of you have had some amazing experiences, but when you try and oversell that, it comes across badly, and it comes across as just a little bit too pick-me, for lack of a better term. So just be smart about how you do things. Be selective, be thoughtful. Less here is always more. So reduce, be clear, be direct, and get to the point. Lots more to talk about in terms of essays, in terms of the Common App. I want to hear from you. What are you worried about? How do you want to use your additional information essay? What questions do you have about your resume? Find us on social media at AdmittedlyCo on TikTok and Instagram. Thank you so much for following the podcast. It means the world to me. We're also available on YouTube, and I do a free monthly webinar that I absolutely invite you to attend. I love the feedback. I love the comments. I'm in the DMs. I'm in the comments all the time. I want to hear from you. Your feedback, your examples, your concerns drive me. It's why I'm here. So I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for following, and let's get after the submission season together.
Thank you for joining us today. Please take a moment to subscribe to the Admittedly podcast and download this episode. I welcome you to share your thoughts and questions with me. You can find us on social media at Admittedly Podcast. I look forward to continuing